The explosion rocked the Imperial Palace's east wing, sending shards of crystalline architecture raining down onto the pristine gardens below. Marcus Cole's combat instincts kicked in before his conscious mind could process the situation. He grabbed Princess Veyara's arm and pulled her away from the window where she had been admiring the twin moons of Lyria just moments before. "Stay close to me, Your Highness," Marcus commanded, his cybernetic eye already scanning for threats through the smoke-filled corridor. The princess's silver skin shimmered in the emergency lights as she pressed close to him, her ceremonial robes traded for practical attire at his insistence when he'd first sensed something amiss in the palace's security protocols. "Commander Cole, I trust you," Veyara whispered, her violet eyes reflecting both fear and determination. "But please, tell me what's happening to my home." Marcus checked his neural interface as they moved swiftly through the palace's servant passages. The security grid was down, not damaged, but deliberately disabled from within. His worst fears were confirmed. This was no external attack, but a carefully planned coup. "Your Highness, someone has betrayed the crown. The palace guard frequencies are scrambled, and I'm detecting unauthorized ships landing in the private hangars." He paused at an intersection, his augmented hearing picking up the sound of armored footsteps approaching. "We need to get you off-world immediately." The betrayal shouldn't have surprised him. As the first human ever appointed to guard a Lyrian royal, Marcus had faced opposition from the start. But he'd earned his position through years of diplomatic service and proven loyalty to the Empire. Emperor Nixus himself had chosen Marcus to protect his only daughter after the human had saved the royal family during the Centaurian crisis. Now, 3 days before Veyara's coronation as the new empress, everything was falling apart. A squad of armed figures in royal guard armor rounded the corner ahead. Marcus's cybernetic eye immediately detected the subtle differences in their movement patterns. These weren't the real palace guard. Without hesitation, he pushed Veyara into an alcove and drew his pulse pistol. The first fake guard raised his weapon, but Marcus was faster. 3 precise shots dropped the lead attackers, their armor proving useless against his military-grade weaponry. The remaining assailants dove for cover, giving Marcus and Veyara the opening they needed. "Run," he ordered, covering their retreat with suppressing fire. The princess matched his pace, her natural Lyrian agility making her fleet-footed even in crisis. They sprinted through the twisting corridors of the palace's lower levels, the sounds of pursuit growing more distant. Marcus led them to a hidden door, one of several escape routes he'd prepared for exactly this scenario. The panel slid open to reveal a narrow maintenance tunnel. "This will take us to my private hangar," he explained as they crawled through the confined space. "I keep a ship ready, untraceable and stocked with emergency supplies." "Marcus," Veyara said, using his first name for the first time in their 2 years together, "what about my father? We can't just leave him." Marcus's heart ached at the pain in her voice. "Your father ordered me to protect you above all else, even him. He knew something like this might happen. The best way to help him now is to keep you safe and find out who's behind this." They emerged into the small hangar where Marcus's personal ship waited, a modified Terran Scout-class vessel that looked unimpressive but packed serious firepower. As they rushed toward it, a figure stepped out from behind a stack of cargo containers. "I'm disappointed, Commander Cole," said Lord Tyvis, the head of the Royal Security Council. The elegant Lyrian noble held a ceremonial staff that Marcus knew concealed a deadly energy weapon. "I expected you to take her to the designated safe room. It would have made this so much cleaner." Marcus pushed Veyara behind him, his cybernetic eye analyzing possible angles of attack. "Should have known it was you, Tyvis. You never could accept a human protecting the heir to the throne." Tyvis smiled coldly, his silver skin taking on a darker hue that signaled aggression in his species. "This goes far beyond mere xenophobia, Commander. The Empire requires stronger leadership than what a naive girl and her alien pet can provide. The only thing you'll provide is a lesson in why humans don't take kindly to traitors," Marcus growled. He fired his pulse pistol in one fluid motion, but Tyvis activated a personal shield, deflecting the shot. The noble raised his staff, energy crackling around its tip. Your reputation for quick thinking is well deserved. But this ends now. What happened next would be talked about in whispered legends throughout the Empire for years to come. As Tyvis fired his weapon, Marcus's cybernetic systems calculated the energy beam's trajectory in microseconds. He spun, using his own body as a shield while simultaneously drawing the monomolecular blade concealed in his sleeve. The energy blast caught him in the left shoulder, searing through his armor, but his blade found its mark. Tyvis looked down in shock at the blade protruding from his chest, his shield useless against the close-quarter attack. Impossible, he gasped, his silver skin fading to gray as he collapsed. Marcus staggered, his left arm hanging useless at his side. Get to the ship, he ordered Vayara through gritted teeth. We have about 2 minutes before his backup arrives. The princess helped him aboard, her medical training allowing her to quickly apply emergency nanobandages to his wound. As they lifted off, alarms began blaring throughout the palace complex. Anti-aircraft batteries turned toward them, but Marcus's ship lived up to its modifications, weaving through the barrage with AI-assisted precision. As they broke atmosphere, Vayara looked back at her home through the viewport, tears in her violet eyes. Everything I've known, everyone I've trusted. Not everyone, Marcus said firmly, fighting through the pain to pilot them to safety. We'll find allies. We'll discover the truth. And I swear to you, princess, we'll take back your throne. Vayara placed her hand on his uninjured shoulder, her touch conveying both gratitude and resolve. Together, then, Commander Cole? Together, Your Highness, he nodded as they jumped to hyperspace, leaving the glittering capital of the Lyrian Empire behind. And please, call me Marcus. The neon glow of Helio Station cast purple shadows across Marcus's face as he stood watch at the viewport of their rented quarters. 3 weeks had passed since their escape from Lyria, 3 weeks of staying one step ahead of the assassins and bounty hunters that seemed to materialize wherever they went. His shoulder had healed thanks to Vayara's expertise with Lyrian medical techniques, but the wound to his pride, letting the princess's enemies get so close to her, still stung. Vayara sat cross-legged on the floor behind him, her silver skin dimmed to a matte finish to better blend in with the station's population. She was reviewing diplomatic feeds on a secure datapad, searching for any hint of her father's fate. The official channels claimed Emperor Nixus had fallen ill and temporarily ceded power to the Security Council, but both Marcus and Vayara knew that was a lie. They're being thorough, Vayara said, her violet eyes narrowing at the screen. Every transmission, every official statement, it's all perfectly crafted to make it seem legitimate. Even our oldest allies are accepting this story. Marcus turned from the viewport, his cybernetic eye automatically adjusting to the room's dimmer lighting. That's what worries me. This conspiracy runs deeper than just Tyvis and a few corrupt nobles. Someone with serious influence is pulling the strings. A quiet chime from Marcus's neural interface interrupted his thoughts. He'd set up passive scanners throughout the station's docking rings, programmed to alert him to any unusual activity. We've got company, he announced, bringing up the feed in his augmented vision. 2 Lyrian diplomatic shuttles just requested emergency docking clearance. Vayara rose gracefully to her feet, already moving to gather their essential gear. They'd gotten good at quick departures. How did they find us? I don't think they have, Marcus replied, watching the feed carefully. The shuttles are running lights and broadcasting ID codes. If they knew we were here, they'd be more subtle. He paused as his neural interface decoded more of the transmission. Wait, something's not right. Those codes, they're from the Imperial Intelligence Division. The division? Vayara stopped mid-motion, her expression troubled. They're supposed to be politically neutral, answering only to the throne itself. If they're involved, Then either they've been compromised, or... Marcus let the thought hang unfinished. The Imperial Intelligence Division was legendary for its absolute loyalty to the Crown. If they were working with the conspirators, it meant the plot against Vayara went back further than anyone suspected. A new alert flashed in Marcus's vision: movement in the station's maintenance corridors, heading their way. "We've got more immediate problems," he said, drawing his pulse pistol. "Multiple contacts, trying to be stealthy. They're herding us toward the main docking ring." Vayara moved to his side, drawing a small energy blade he'd trained her to use. "Options?" Marcus smiled grimly. In their weeks on the run, the princess had shed her formal mannerisms, becoming a capable partner in their survival. "They'll be expecting us to run toward the civilian docks. So we do the opposite, we head straight for those intelligence shuttles." "That's either brilliant or suicidal," Vayara observed, but she was already moving to follow his lead. They slipped out of their quarters just as the first infiltrators reached their floor. Marcus's cybernetic eye picked up their heat signatures through the walls, professional operators, moving in perfect formation. These weren't common bounty hunters. Marcus led them through maintenance shafts and service corridors, paths he'd memorized during their first day on the station. They emerged into a crowded market level, where dozens of species from across the galaxy haggled over goods both legal and questionable. "Keep your head down," Marcus murmured as they wove through the crowd. "But not too down. Act like you belong." They were halfway across the market when Marcus spotted the first tail, a Centaurian operative trying very hard to look like a casual shopper. Then another, a human this time, speaking quietly into a concealed comm unit. "They're boxing us in," Vayara whispered, her enhanced Lyrian senses picking up what Marcus's technology detected. "At least 8 of them now." Marcus guided them toward a busy food stall, his mind racing through possibilities. "Remember that maneuver we practiced on Outpost 7? A ghost of a smile crossed Vayara's face. "The one that ended with you falling into the waste reclamation tank? How could I forget?" "We're going to do it again," he said, "but this time with more style." In one fluid motion, Marcus lifted Vayara onto the food stall's counter. She immediately understood, using the height to launch herself toward a hanging cargo net strung between market levels. As the crowd gasped and their pursuers rushed forward, Marcus fired 3 precise shots, not at the operatives, but at the net support cables. Vayara swung gracefully on the falling net, using the momentum to catapult herself toward an upper walkway. Marcus charged through the chaos, vaulting off an alien vendor's cart to grab her outstretched hand. She pulled him up just as their pursuers opened fire, energy bolts scarring the metal where they'd stood moments before. "Show-offs," a gravelly voice said behind them. They spun to find a massive figure blocking their path, a Drachnid mercenary, his scaled hide covered in battle armor. "But this little chase ends here." Marcus stepped forward, keeping himself between the mercenary and Vayara. "You're right about one thing," he said, his cybernetic eye scanning for weaknesses in the Drachnid's armor. "This does end here." The mercenary laughed, the sound like rocks in a grinder. Brave words from a human who's about to dash. His sentence cut off as Marcus's neural interface hijacked the station's atmospheric controls, venting a precise burst of pressure that sent the unprepared Drachnid stumbling. In the split second of imbalance, Marcus struck, targeting nerve clusters his scanners had identified. The massive alien went down hard. "The shuttles are in Bay 12, Marcus said, already moving. "Whatever's waiting for us there has to be better than this kill box." They sprinted through the station's upper levels, the sounds of pursuit growing closer. As they rounded the final corner to Bay 12, they found themselves face to face with a squad of division agents in full tactical gear. "Commander Cole," the lead agent said, lowering his weapon. "Thank the stars we found you first." He reached up and removed his helmet, revealing features that made both Marcus and Vayara gasp in recognition. "Uncle Revan?" Vayara whispered. The man who had once been the division's most legendary operative nodded grimly. We don't have much time. The truth about what's happening on Lyria, it's worse than either of you imagine. And you're not the only ones in danger anymore. The entire Empire is about to change forever, unless we can stop it. Marcus kept his weapon ready, trust warring with training. Why should we believe you? Revan reached into his armor and withdrew a data crystal. Because I have proof that this conspiracy started 30 years ago, before Vayara was even born. And because in 6 hours, every loyal division agent in the Empire will be dead, unless you two help us stop it. The data crystal's holographic display bathed the shuttle's cabin in an eerie blue glow as Revan laid out 30 years of carefully gathered evidence. Marcus watched the princess's face as she absorbed the impossible truth about her heritage and the empire she was meant to rule. This can't be right, Vayara whispered, her violet eyes wide with shock. The eternal throne has always passed through our bloodline. My father is not your biological father, Revan said gently. Emperor Nixus and your mother kept the truth hidden to protect you. The previous empress was assassinated before she could produce an heir. To prevent civil war, they genetically engineered you using DNA from both royal houses, creating a perfect compromise candidate that neither side could reject. Marcus's cybernetic eye analyzed Vayara's vital signs, noting her elevated stress levels. He placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. That explains why certain factions opposed her coronation. They discovered the truth. Revan nodded grimly. The same shadow organization that arranged the previous empress's death. They call themselves the Eternal Dawn. For centuries, they've manipulated the Empire from behind the scenes, ensuring only rulers they could control sat on the throne. But they couldn't control me, Vayara said, her shock hardening into determination. Because they didn't create me. My parents did. The shuttle shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace, revealing a massive asteroid field scattered with the wreckage of ancient ships. Revan guided them through the debris toward what appeared to be a derelict mining facility. Welcome to Haven, he said as they docked. The last sanctuary for those who remember what the Empire should be. The facility's hangar contained a motley collection of ships, everything from sleek military vessels to battered smuggler craft. As they disembarked, Marcus counted at least 50 armed individuals of various species, all wearing the distinctive silver armbands of division loyalists. A tall, willowy figure stepped forward from the group. Her alabaster skin marked her as Selenian, one of the Empire's oldest allied races. I am Director Naira, she announced, her pearl-like eyes fixed on Vayara. We've waited a long time for this moment, Your Highness. Director Naira was your mother's closest friend, Revan explained. She helped arrange your creation and has protected the truth ever since. Naira's expression softened. You have her bearing, child. The same fire in your eyes. She turned to Marcus. And you, Commander Cole. Your appointment as the princess's guardian was no accident. We have watched your career with great interest. Marcus's neural interface pinged a warning, multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the asteroid field. We have company, he announced, bringing up tactical displays. At least 3 heavy cruisers, bearing Imperial markings. The Eternal Dawn, Revan snarled. They must have tracked us. Director, we need to evacuate. No. Vayara's voice cut through the rising panic. I'm tired of running. These people murdered my mother, manipulated my father, and tried to steal my birthright. It's time we took the fight to them. Marcus studied the tactical display, his augmented mind calculating possibilities. Those cruisers are Hammer class. Top of the line, but I know their weaknesses. If we could get aboard one. I can help with that, a new voice called out. A figure emerged from behind a stack of cargo containers, a human woman with striking features and a confident swagger. Name's Celine Wade. Used to captain one of those beauties before I learned what the Dawn really was. Marcus's cybernetic eye scanned her automatically. You're the one who exposed the Dawn's infiltration of the Imperial fleet. They've had a bounty on you for years. Celine grinned. Guilty as charged. Been helping the division ever since, running supplies, gathering intel. She pulled up a holographic schematic of the cruisers. I know every access point, every security protocol. Get me close enough, and I can slice their systems wide open. It's too dangerous, Marcus protested, looking at Vayara. Our priority has to be keeping you safe. The princess met his gaze steadily. My safety isn't worth the Empire's freedom. You've taught me how to fight, Marcus. Let me use those skills. Before he could respond, the facility's proximity alarms blared. Multiple boarding craft incoming, Revan reported. They're not waiting for us to make a decision. Then we make our stand here, Marcus said, drawing his pulse pistol. Director, get your people to defensive positions. Celine, we'll need those system codes ready. Princess. He turned to find Vayara already checking her energy blade, a fierce light in her eyes. I know, she said with a slight smile. Stay close to you. The first explosion rocked the hangar as Dawn commandos breached the outer doors. Marcus's cybernetic systems integrated with the facility's sensors, giving him a perfect tactical overview. They're coming in waves, he announced. First group is elite shock troops, probably augmented. They'll try to overwhelm us quickly. Just like old times, Revan said, taking up position on Marcus's left. Remember that mess on Centauri Prime? You still owe me a drink for saving your ass that day, Marcus replied as he sighted down his weapon. The commandos burst through the smoke, their black armor absorbing the defenders' initial volley of fire. Marcus's enhanced reactions allowed him to pick out weak points in their protection, his shots finding gaps and joints with surgical precision. Vayara moved like liquid silver at his side, her energy blade humming as she deflected incoming fire. The training sessions that had started as basic self-defense had evolved into something more. She fought with a fusion of Royal Lyrian martial arts and human combat techniques that made her nearly untouchable. Second wave incoming. Celine called out, her fingers flying over a portable console. But I've got a surprise for them. The facility's loading cranes suddenly sprang to life, swinging massive cargo containers into the path of the boarding craft. 2 shuttles crashed in spectacular explosions. The battle raged for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. When the smoke cleared, the hangar floor was littered with fallen Dawn commandos. The defenders had held, but at a cost. Several division agents lay wounded or worse. This was just the first wave, Revan said grimly as medics tended to the injured. They'll regroup and come at us with everything they have. Then we don't give them the chance, Vayara declared. Captain Wade, how quickly can you get us aboard one of those cruisers? Celine's eyes lit up with professional interest. Give me a fast ship and 15 minutes to upload the right codes. But even then, we'll be severely outnumbered. Numbers aren't everything, Marcus said, an idea forming. Director Naira, do you still have access to the division's deep cover operatives? The Selenian nodded. Some. Many have gone dark since the purge began. Contact everyone you can reach. Tell them to stand by for emergency protocols. He turned to Vayara. Your Highness, I have a plan. It's crazy, probably suicidal, and will require you to trust me completely. Marcus, she said softly, touching his arm. I've always trusted you completely. He nodded, his cybernetic eye already calculating trajectories and probabilities. Then let's go steal ourselves a cruiser. It's time the Eternal Dawn learned why humanity earned its place in the Empire. We don't know when to quit. The Imperial cruiser, Eternal Vigilance, hung in space like a predator waiting to strike, its sleek black hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. From their position hidden within a massive chunk of asteroid debris, Marcus watched through the shuttle's viewport as Dawn patrol craft swept the area for survivors of the station assault. Their scan patterns are predictable, he observed, his cybernetic eye tracking the patrol routes. Overconfident. They think they've won. Beside him, Celine Wade's fingers danced across the shuttle's controls, inputting the complex series of codes that would fool the cruiser's security systems. Almost ready. Remember, we'll only have about 30 seconds between dropping our cloak and docking before their systems register an anomaly. In the shuttle's passenger compartment, Vayara sat with Director Naira and Uncle Revan, making final adjustments to their borrowed division tactical gear. The princess had insisted on being part of the boarding team, and Marcus had learned there was no arguing with her when she set her mind to something. The Dawn's arrogance will be their undoing, Revan said, checking his weapons. They never imagined we'd dare strike at one of their capital ships directly. Marcus's neural interface pinged as it received an encrypted burst transmission. Director Naira's operatives are in position throughout the sector. Once we take the ship, they'll move to secure key facilities across the Empire. We just have to give them the signal. And hope there are enough loyal forces left to make a difference, Naira added softly. Celine's console chimed. We're ready. All codes are loaded, and I've identified our entry point, a maintenance airlock on the ventral hull. Security is minimal there. Marcus turned to face his team. One last time, this is volunteer only. Once we're aboard, there's no turning back. I volunteer, Vayara said immediately, her violet eyes fierce. This is my empire, my people. I won't hide while others fight for me. Where the princess goes, I go, Revan declared, and Naira nodded in agreement. Celine grinned. Someone has to fly this bucket. Besides, I've got a score to settle with the Dawn. Marcus felt a surge of pride in this unlikely band of heroes. Then let's make history. Celine, take us in. The shuttle detached from its hiding place, its advanced cloaking field making it virtually invisible to sensors. They glided through the debris field, timing their approach to coincide with a gap in the patrol patterns. At precisely the right moment, Celine killed the cloak and fired the engines at full thrust. 20 seconds, she called out as they rocketed toward the cruiser's hull. Marcus's cybernetic systems linked with the shuttle's targeting computer, guiding them perfectly toward the maintenance airlock. 15 seconds. Patrol craft changing course, Revan reported. They've spotted us. 10 seconds. The first energy bolts from the patrol craft streaked past their hull. Celine threw the shuttle into a spiral, somehow maintaining their trajectory toward the airlock. 5 seconds. Weapons lock detected. Naira warned. Docking clamps engaged, Celine announced triumphantly as they slammed into the hull. We're in. Marcus was moving before the shuttle stopped shuddering, leading the team through the airlock. His neural interface connected to the cruiser's systems through the code Celine had uploaded, giving him a partial map of the vessel. Bridge is 20 decks up, he said as they moved through the maintenance corridor. Engineering is 12 decks down. We need both to take control of the ship. Split up? Revan suggested. Marcus nodded. Revan, take Naira and Celine to engineering. The princess and I will handle the bridge. They parted ways at an intersection, each team heading toward their objective. Marcus and Vayara moved silently through the ship's service corridors, avoiding the main passageways where crew members would be present. Marcus, Vayara whispered as they paused at a security checkpoint. If we succeed, when we succeed, things will have to change between us. He knew what she meant. Once she claimed her throne, the easy companionship they developed would be replaced by the formal distance between a ruler and her subject. Let's win this fight first, Your Highness. Then we'll worry about protocol. She grabbed his arm, forcing him to look at her. That's not what I dash. The ship's alert klaxons cut her off. "Intruder alert," a computerized voice announced. "Security teams to all decks." "So much for subtlety," Marcus muttered. "Time for Plan B." "We had a Plan B. We do now." He drew his pulse pistol and fired at the ceiling, triggering the fire suppression system. Emergency force fields sprang up, sealing off sections of the corridor, and trapping the security teams away from their position. They ran for the nearest lift shaft, Marcus's cybernetic eye identifying maintenance ladders they could use to climb. As they ascended, his neural interface picked up scattered communications from the security teams. "They're sealing bulkheads," he reported. "Trying to trap us in segments of the ship. But they don't know about Revan's team yet." 10 decks up, they encountered their first real resistance. A squad of Dawn troopers had set up a defensive position guarding the approach to the bridge. Energy bolts filled the corridor as soon as Marcus and Vayara emerged from the lift shaft. "Cover me," Vayara said, her energy blade humming to life. Before Marcus could protest, she was moving, her blade weaving an intricate pattern that deflected the incoming fire. The Dawn troopers, unused to facing an opponent wielding Royal Lyrian combat techniques, fell back in confusion. Marcus used their distraction to advance, his augmented reactions allowing him to pick off targets with lethal precision. Together, they cleared the corridor in seconds. "Impressive," he admitted as they caught their breath. "But please warn me next time before you do something that reckless." Vayara smiled, her silver skin flushed with exertion. "I learned from the best." A massive explosion rocked the ship, nearly throwing them off their feet. Marcus's neural interface crackled with a transmission from Revan, engineering secured. "But we've got problems, they're trying to scuttle the ship." Marcus cursed. Of course the Dawn would rather destroy the cruiser than let it fall into enemy hands. "Can you stop it?" "Celine's working on it," Revan replied. "But we need bridge control to override their commands." "Almost there," Marcus assured him. They were approaching the bridge's main entrance, a heavily armored door designed to resist boarding actions. But they had an advantage the Dawn didn't expect. "Director Naira's codes should still work," Vayara said, pulling out a data chip. She was one of the original architects of these security systems. As she inserted the chip into the door's control panel, Marcus's cybernetic eye detected movement behind them. He spun, pulse pistol raised, to find themselves facing a full platoon of Dawn elite guards led by a familiar figure. "I must admit, I'm impressed," said Grand Admiral Theron, his aristocratic Lyrian features twisted in a sneer. "You've exceeded all our projections, Commander Cole. And you, my dear princess, you've proven far more resilient than we anticipated." Vayara stepped forward, her voice ringing with authority. "It's over, Admiral. We know everything, about my mother's assassination, about the Dawn's manipulation of the Empire. Surrender now, and I'll ensure you receive a fair trial." Theron laughed. "Fair? My dear girl, fairness is a luxury the Empire cannot afford. The Dawn has guided our civilization for centuries, ensuring stability through careful control. We will not allow a genetic experiment and her human pet to undo generations of careful planning." The Admiral raised his hand, and his guards took aim. "Kill them both. The Empire will mourn their tragic deaths at the hands of terrorist infiltrators." But at that moment, the door behind Marcus and Vayara slid open, revealing the bridge crew, all with weapons trained on Theron and his men. "Actually," said Director Naira as she stepped onto the bridge, "I believe you'll find the Empire's loyalties lie elsewhere."